What is going on, everybody? I am Indie Pride, and happy Independence Day for all of you Americans, and happy just another Monday for every other country in the world. More Blade Balance multiplayer action coming your way, and this time we are using large armies, busting that unit cap up to 40. And I am playing as Chaos. We've gotten some relatively significant changes in Blade Balance and the base game since patch 1. Chaos Dragon has had his armor bumped up to 70, which is a pretty big deal. It was one of the squishiest and most overpriced mount choices in the entire game before. Chosen with great weapons had their price reduced to 1,300 from 1,500, and regular Chosen now cost 1,100. So fielding some of those higher tier units for Chaos is a bit easier on normal funds. Chaos Knights also got 500 HP, which was an important change for them. My opponent Duke Elios has brought a front line of zombies, shambling towards my Chaos army. Line of Grave Guard with great weapons. Bunch of Cairn Wraiths behind that who have had their physical resistance buffed up to 80%. A ton of Crypt Horrors who have had their armor nerfed by 10 and got less speed and melee attack as well, but they're still really good for their price. 6 Blood Knights, very terrifying vampire cavalry for the undead. 24 bonus versus large, and I'll have to be very careful with my monster units and my cavalry, or they'll get into my back line and maybe rip through my main line infantry and kill my monsters as well with that bonus versus large. I wanted to get some of these zombies off the field, so I'm going to charge up the center with the Chaos Knights with lances, and I'm going to shred some zombies, watch those blood packs go to work, and I'm going to rip through them with those lances and just pull out again, do some damage, get some of those meat shields off the field. And the Necromancer on the Hellsteed is looking for a pretty scrumptious Wind of Death here, so he's going to be kind of flying around on the flank. It was very obvious he was going for a Wind of Death. That's going to happen pretty soon here, and I'll tell you what I do with that to try to deal with it. But Hell Cannon is firing into the Cairn Wraith right now. Actually going to drop 5 models right there. They're just going to completely disintegrate. Could cast Invocation of Nehek with the Necromancer to regen some of those dead units, but I'm definitely going to be focusing on the Cairn Wraiths because they will drop to Hell Cannon. I think it actually does magic damage, so I should be able to take some of them off the field before they close into the melee. And right here, I'm going to present a really juicy target. I'm going to stop moving my Chaos Warriors and keep them in a nice straight line and bait out that Wind of Death, which is a really powerful Vortex spell for the lore of vampires. And as soon as I see that spell icon, I'm going to pull my main line back, and he is going to whiff the entire Vortex. So Wind of Death is one of the best spells in the entire game right now. It can completely rip through an entire front line of infantry. This is in the base game too. It's not even a blade balance change. But it does take 4 to 5 seconds for the spell to fully materialize from when it is cast, so it can be baited out pretty easily. Just keep an eye out. It's really obvious when a Vampire Counts player is going for the Wind of Death. They'll send their Lord out to your flank, generally unsupported, and try to line up a shot. It becomes more problematic once your men are tied down in melee, of course, but just don't present a perfectly straight battle line. Stagger your engagements, and that will make it harder for a good Vortex to get dropped on your head. I do think Wind of Death is probably the only Vortex truly worth its Winds of Magic in the game right now. Even in Blade Balance, it's still the best Vortex spell, but either way, I did manage to bait that one out, and the Chaos Giants are going to work. I have 2 of them. My Chosen in the front have engaged, and over on this side, I charged in, got rid of some more zombies, and he tried to overlap the engagement with his Blood Knights. He has 3 out on this flank, and I believe he has 3 over on the other flank. I'm going to have to be very careful with my halberd placement. Need to make sure they're in close supporting my back lines and my giants, or those Blood Knights will absolutely rip through. Piercing Bolt of Burning going to drop down now, and look at it melt those Grave Guard. It did get an armor piercing buff in Blade Balance, and it can rip through units, especially when overcast. I'd say it's the bread and butter spell for the lore of fire now. It is extremely good, and it can be baited out as well, but it does a lot of damage. And here, Blood Knight's going to charge into my Chaos Knights. I'm backing that engagement up with my halberds. Need to make sure my halberds are in a good position to overlap these engagements. Make sure the Blood Knights don't get in close and really hurt my giant or my cavalry. You can see I'm trying to tie down these Blood Knights in the back. Kind of chasing after Blood Knights that I'm not going to be able to catch, so it's a bad use of my halberds. But they're going for the Hell Cannon now. One of my Chaos Knights is coming back to reinforce, and there are going to be some Hammer and Anvil opportunities for Duke Eligos and those Blood Knights. They could do so much damage on my back line. I'm going to have to be very careful. And I don't know if you guys have seen testing or done any testing yourself, but 1 Blood Knight will beat 1 Chaos Giant or a regular giant, so you really do have to be very careful with your monsters around that plus 24 bonus versus large on those Blood Knights. So in the back here, my Chaos Dragon, my Lore of Fire Chaos Sorcerer is going to go down there, charge in, and try to tie down those Blood Knights. I am actually kind of squishing those Blood Knights over in the back, and Hell Cannon now firing in, going to drop 2 models there, do some nice HP damage to that really terrifying cavalry. But now they do have a clear opportunity to charge in, have my halberd reinforcing, but he did manage to squish one of my Chaos Chosen units. That unit is going to shatter, or break at least, and it's going to be hurting my left flank a lot, so I have to be super careful right now. Blood Knights are in a really scary position. These ones are going to get tied down by my halberd, so I had good placement there. And he is going to charge in, and I'm doing quite a bit of HP damage to them. But now, more Cycle Charging coming in, more Blood Knights coming in. 6 Blood Knights is really hard to deal with as Chaos, or really any army, period. They're just incredibly powerful cavalry. Oh, nice win of death there from the Necromancer. Is going to do quite a bit of damage. Look at that mass routing on the main line. Piercing Bolt of Burning going to drop and do some damage to those Blood Knights and some Graveguard over on that side. But that was a really good win of death. It's actually broken my center, some of the units in the center. One of his Blood Knights in the back did get tied down by my halberds, and they are dead. I wouldn't say the cavalry has made a huge impact on this game so far. They did destroy one of my chosen units, but so far I think I've done a pretty decent job keeping my Chaos Knights in support, keeping my halberds in a position to block those charges. And a lot of his Blood Knights are actually dead. I think I've already killed 3 or 4 units. Giant gonna reach down and bite off the head of a skeleton. Probably not a very tasty meal right there. And another Piercing Bolts of Burning dropping on some Cairn Wraiths, who are ethereal, so they will take amplified damage from spells. And I'm using that spell so much because it's consistent. You know exactly where it's going to drop, it's accurate, and I'm systematically trying to eliminate units that are tied down by raining fire on their heads. Like I said, I do think that Piercing Bolts of Burning is the bread and butter spell for the lore of fire right now. The Vortex spells can do a ton of damage, especially because they got buffed in Blade Balance, but they are not very consistent. And now, and this is a very dangerous engagement, Blood Knight's getting close and comfortable with my Chaos Giant. That could make his day a whole lot worse. Up to this point, he's been smashing and munching pretty much everything thrown his way. But Blood Knights are a huge threat to large targets. I have thankfully gotten rid of many of the Blood Knights currently on the field. A lot of them have crumbled. I think there might only be 1 or 2 Blood Knight units left in the field. You can see a bunch of my Chaos units are routing in the background. I'm going to get a nice hammer and anvil into the back of my Chaos Warriors. I think he should have focused on that Giant. Kept him tied down. Those Blood Knights would have definitely finished that Chaos Giant off. Over here, another one is dropping down pretty far. He's beating up on some Crypt Horrors, but I don't know if he'll be able to win. And now I want to chase off that Necromancer. If my Chaos Dragon gets a hold of the Hellsteed, he will rip him a new one. So he's definitely going to pull away from that engagement. And over here, Chaos Warriors are getting completely pooped on by Crypt Horrors, as you would expect, especially when you're getting hammered and anviled by Blood Knights. That is not the engagement you want to be taking. If you're a Chaos Warrior, they're getting ripped apart. But now, I do have the Winds of Magic to cast an Overcast, Piercing Bolt of Burning. There's a blob of Crypt Horrors right here. And we'll see if I cast that in a second. Over here, Chaos Giant still bashing on some Blood Knights who are crumbling. They're disappear. And now the sky is gonna open up and let fire rain from above. That spell looks so dope. And that is gonna melt an entire unit of Crypt Horrors. It's not gonna drop too many models, but look at their HP. Just a sliver of it left. And they're gonna die very soon. Chaos Warriors closing in. Oh my god, they're blowing up. The Crypt Horrors slam into them. They just explode with the Blood Pack. I think one of them's gonna get picked up and slammed into the ground in a second. Yeah, he's gonna pick him up, slam him into the ground. Oh, see ya. And his torso is going to explode in a gory mess. And this is brutal combat. Love watching those Crypt Horrors go to work. Really cool animations. And I am going to be able to pretty much take the field from here. Crypt Horrors are crumbling. They have lost so many models. And at this point, balance more shifting ever more in my favor. So Chaos Dragon is going to hunt down that Necromancer. Chaos Giant going to smack on some Skeleton Warriors over on this side. And I am going to take the field. Necromancer going down right now. Going to drop, and I'm going to take it. So, I think that came down to the Blood Knight usage. I think that he had the tools to win that engagement. Blood Knights just couldn't find the openings they needed to. I think I did a really good job with the halberds preventing him getting from really good charges off. The Chaos Knights did really well considering they went toe-to-toe with Blood Knights. One almost got 100 kills, the other 200. Sure, a lot of them were on zombies, but I protected my flanks. prevented most of the hammer and anvils with my cav and my halberds, and that carried chaos in the end. Hope you guys enjoyed. See you next time.